How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Could be better, could be worse. Let's ignore that horoscope, that inauspicious horoscope that talked about um, unpleasant communicational things happening. I asked angels and guides to help us work through that, so hopefully there won't be any issues. So it's great to be speaking to you, and it's a good thing we'll be able to be on for 2 hours now. A little cold and wet outside. Unpleasant for the first unofficial day of summer, but still, it's a pleasure to be speaking with you now. You are a very enlightening and love-filled individual. Listening to some of your programs and interviews and such, I loved what I heard. Definitely worthy of being a guest on my radio show. So, empowering soulful entanglement, divine purpose, and universal expansiveness. Explore universal unity, self love, and miraculous life potentials through divine union. That's what it says at the top of your website, universalunity.ca. I guess starting off, who is Joanna Ross? What does she do? Your life story. Give out your contact info as well. A lot of people do that at the end of their shows. I often do that at the beginning of my shows with my guests whenever I give them the chance to give out their contact info and life story. So, you've got the floor. Tell us what's happened in your life that causes you to be the universal unity seeking person that you are.
Well, thank you for having me on, and it's been a great pleasure connecting with so many people from all over the world with the great awakening that's happening and the waves of energy that are washing over our planet. So it's really great that so many people are coming to life in new ways, energetic ways. Um, uh, I guess I've always known, as I stated in my books, part of my awakening came through what many experiences through normal everyday life experiences, and it came from I guess my initial awakening was after the birth of my second child, my daughter, and I was moving through some, profoundly dramatic and traumatic, dark experiences, and wanting to be the best mother that I could and be present with her and for her emotionally and physically and energetically. Um, it posed, many great questions about why I was experiencing what I was experiencing and really going into deep state of denial about who I was, deep state of confusion, deep state of why were these beautiful engagements that I was having with my children. I had a son at that time as well, very young, 2 years old. And I was just, becoming a new mother once again. And here I was creating, this juxtaposition of complete joy and bliss. And then I was moving through complete darkness on the other side of it, which is what our reality really is. And so not being educated at all in anything to do with enlightenment or ascension at that point in time, because that was about a little over 10 years ago. And so it really, took me for a big tailspin into darkness and deep, deep lack of self-worth and wondering and creating more confusion for myself as the ego mind does, spiraling us into deep states of lack of self and lack of self-love and worthiness and why are we here. And I had struggled with many of these experiences most of my life as far as who I was as a being, as a being of what I've come here for. And there was not necessarily education in my home and upbringing. And so I understand now what many people face, and especially the children, when there's not a lot of information being brought forward and you've kind of come here as an enlightened heart, but what you see occurring on the outside reality and what you see going on in your life doesn't necessarily match or mix or connect with what you know to be true within. And so that can cause, great confusion and great trauma in trying to identify who you are and trying to go through your entire life with so many evolutionary phases just by, the teenage years and everything that we go through as a human being, let alone understanding, your grand purpose and why each and every one of us are here. So, having those higher abilities and those higher sensings, I've always known, and I've always had experiences when I was a child, but it didn't really click in until like my true awakening after my daughter was born, because then I was able to see and sense and hear and know the world that I was always connected with. And then all of those questions throughout my entire life made sense. And so it really propelled me on a path to really create some sort of foundation, which was the platform that I created, Universal Unity. It has changed names a couple of times since then, but my whole passion was to create a landing pad, if you will, so that all those moving through awakening understand and have one place to land, if you will, and to create that sense of home, to truly explore all that they are as a multidimensional being. Because when I started about my path, there was so many segmentations about what spirit truly is. And the whole idea of our human evolution can be broken down into three general concepts. Who are we? What do we exist within? And what exists within us? And that's it. Sure, there's an infinite number of modalities that we get excited about in serving any one of those three explorations, but true awakening and true awareness is those discoveries of any of those three concepts that are intertwined and sewn with one another. And so if we start these crucial universal concepts right from the earliest of ages, then we can avoid the pitfalls of what humanity has moved through for eons, regardless of what's been hidden from us, regardless of the disclosures, regardless of all of the conspiracies and all of that kind of stuff that I don't spiral in, because it just creates more of that energy. But what that does is that we can awaken to who we truly are through our inner seeking, through our inner reflection, and come to a higher truth. And that higher truth is that we're multidimensional beings, and each and every one of us have come here for a unique, specific, divine, creative path. And when my daughter awoken, I began to see, and I was initiated, if you will, into my own divine remembrance, because through that dark and traumatic phase, I was counseled by a beautiful counselor, and she suggested that I meditate because I wasn't interested in taking pharmaceuticals to relieve what I was moving through, because I knew that at some point I could be able to resolve it. I knew there was just something inside of me that knew I could resolve it. And so not meditating at all or being aware of the spiritual realm, if you will, up until that point, you know, I've had the little threadings and the little experiences throughout my whole life, but it wasn't really connected to what I was moving through that was so dark. And so I tried meditation, and it didn't take long at all before I had this profound life-altering experience with spirit, with what I call the angel of tone, which is a collective of angelic frequencies that I'm linked and threaded with. And that's why through my awakening and through my path work and my awareness to myself, allowing myself to open up to my tonal skills and my vibrational skills, which is what we've used in ancient temples and why we were able to do what we did with tone, the great healings and the great movement of objects and telekinesis, and all that we did as energy workers is now coming back to the forefront and coming to life through what we're remembering through our source unification, through unifying through Mother, Father, God within. And so, in a nutshell, you know, these last 10 years have been profound moment for moment for moment. Remembrance is about all that I am already. And this is what my passion is to teach, is that any enlightenment, any wisdom, any ability and skill that you so desire as an energy worker, as an educator, is all within you in this moment. And it's about your seeking within and creating that self-love portal of light that creates those initiations that allows you to move through these dynamic and beautiful entanglements and engagements with spirit. And so that's what I get most excited about, is those that are on their awakening path get to experience Mother, Father, God in all ways through angelic presence, through your meditations, and you're just shifted from one belief to another within moments. Because you see beyond the veil of what we've created for ourselves and see that we are source aspects coming to life. So in a nutshell, that's basically, you know, what my path has looked like over the last 10 years through a lot of self-reflection and what I call ascension pathwork, which is my second book. And it just kind of introduces people to what I have done along the way to truly go within and explore all that I am as a multidimensional being and what exists within me, so that I can better navigate as a master what I exist within. And that's true mastery. That's what many of the masters had come to teach us. It had nothing to do about religion. It transcended religion in every way.
Thank you very much. Looking at your bio here that Alexandra Meadows put on her Galactic Connection interview with you, it says here that you discuss the metaphysics of our divine heart center, our higher dimensional chakras, and the need for grounding and clearing the lower chakras in this period. The subject of chakras, I talk about this on my show often. I recently bought a chakra bracelet, which has 7 different colored stones, Roy G. Biv, the color spectrum, each one representing each heart chakra it's supposed to, according to the website jewelry.yoga, where I bought it from on a 30% discount. Allow me to balance out all my chakras and keep them going and flowing. I think I got nothing to lose and everything to gain through this, but of course I can hear all the George Kavasla supporters out there, and I love picking on him for this, saying you're only keeping yourself stuck in the third dimensional realm with this, because chakras, they're so 3D, you gotta move past that. I mean, it only makes sense to dissolve, so to speak, your chakras into one, and the one you want to dissolve them in is your heart center. And I say, well, if you can dissolve all your chakras into the heart and have fun doing that, well, more power to you. But you have to, as why I see it, it's kind of ridiculous to do that, because variety is the spice of life, and you want to have low variety, use all your chakras in some way or another. And even though you definitely want to get the higher ones activated that are not of this 3D realm so much, you still want to have a little fun, have variety, and get all your other chakras involved. And I hate to pick on George Kavaslis, but hey, he even made it clear that going with the heart all the time can't help him answer every single question out there. And I point this out because he and Andrew Bartas are probably my number 1 and number 2, Bartas and Kavaslis respectively, number 1 and 2 most frequently used sources of information on this show. Andrew Bartas says that one of the key parts of being able to access the Akashic Records to answer almost any question under the sun correctly is the crown chakra. Enables him to do that. And George Kavaslis has flat out admitted, among other places in my private session with him, that he cannot answer every single question that one throws at him. Like, for example, I asked him, do you know which moons in the solar system are artificial besides our moon? And he said, no, I don't. It's not information that I keep stored within my heart soul essence. So right there, that shows, okay, if you want to be a know-it-all, the crown chakra is the way to go, not the heart chakra. So people are going to debate this. It's going to be an agree to disagree issue. But when it comes to using chakras, the 7 main ones, as well as how to activate them and the more higher dimensional ones, how do you go about doing that, activating them, balancing them, and do you actually see where George is coming from when he says just dissolve them into one and go with the heart, because that's the best way to go?
Well, I mean, there's an infinite number of perspectives. There's an infinite number of answers. There's an infinite number of questions, and each and every person has their own truth. Each and every person has their own path that they're here to explore. So it's not about what's right or what's wrong. It's about what's right for each individual and what they choose to experience along their path. What we see being as the primary energy, frequency, and excitement of what they're speaking about, just in different words and different terminology, because it doesn't matter how we define anything. Everything is love. It doesn't matter how we define it, what modality we use to spiritually connect with something. It's all love, and it's all through that divine inner mechanism, which is the heart, the divine sacred heart center, which is the very center aspect of your vessel, of your body. It's located right in the middle of your body, your vessel. There is the chamber heart, our physical chamber, which is off to the left, but our divine sacred heart, the partnership, the all that we have in connection with Mother, Father, God, exists in the very center point of our body. This, in connection with the divine higher self, which is just right above the crown area, if you will. If we want to talk about definitions and locations, it doesn't really matter. We have the lower chakra systems, and we have the 7 chakra systems that we know. And we can go into segmenting and separating and defining and coloring and all of those things that humanity has done for eons. What we are moving away from, which is what he has touched on, is understanding that the more that we drop to our heart and live through our divine sacred heart center, which is our partnership in love in all ways, then we create that awareness that we are love, we are all things, and we are the relationship of Mother, Father, God coming to life in our each unique personal ways. However, we do understand that in this human transformation, it is very key for all beings to understand our multidimensional beingness. This multidimensional beingness does incorporate the chakra system, the energetic divine inner temple that oscillates. Each chakra carries its own story, a myriad of stories within every chakra. The chakras also contain the Adam Eve antine particles that when the clearing has been done on these chakras, the balancing has been brought back into focus and back into harmony between male and female energies. The Kundalini begins to start to take spark and take life. The biochemical frequencies that are happening within the chakra systems as you clear, as you awaken, as you self-love, as you self-honor, as you create this beautiful illumination within the self, then you begin to activate those beautiful experiences that happen within the chakras. And it's unique and beautiful and divine, and it's what's being called the Christed consciousness awakening. And as you move up every chakra, which are required and valuable and pure and divine, so we don't want to create lack of importance or lack of purpose, because all things in creation through Mother, Father, God have divine purpose, have divine orchestration, divine design, and they're all required. Otherwise, we wouldn't have them. What humanity is doing is we are bringing back into balance all that we are as a multidimensional being, which requires us to do the inner path work, seeking within who are we, what do we exist within, what exists within us, as we clear each of those belief patterns and constructs, if you will, that have come from a multidimensional lifespan, creating star systems that we're co-creating right now, parallel realities. We're healing and bringing to life and bringing back into love and make whole every single perspective of who we are that's negative and lacking, so that we can bring the all that we are on all parallel lifetimes in to create this illuminated galactic human. This is why this lifetime right here, right now is so profound. And it doesn't matter what we call it or define it. It doesn't matter. What we are doing is we're getting out of our ability to define any one thing, go within and create that self-love, and know that you are a divine temple of light, of energy. How you go about clearing and moving and creating that love and oscillation through all chakras, through all of your pillar of light, creates that sense of knowingness, that sense of self-clarity, that sense of, wow, I'm really here for a purpose. I can feel my excitement in, say, tonal healing or art healing or color healing. And you gain these perspectives through knowing thyself and creating that cleansing oscillation, so that the vibrations of thought, word, and deed change and transmute the cells, the cellular structure of all that you are. So all of your thought emanations, all of your words that you speak, and your intent that you move through life with is the alchemic frequencies, the alchemic transactions, the alchemic processes that illuminate negative frequencies held in your chakra system. So it's very important that we keep all that we are whole and real and alive and well with us. Yes, we are all one. Yes, we have greater chakras, and it doesn't matter what they are called, and it doesn't matter what they mean. What matters is that we begin to understand who we are, balance all of the chakras in all that we are, and we do that by creating manifestations in our everyday life that you may have experienced this morning, by reading something and creating a negative intonation with it, therefore challenging yourself to move beyond what your beliefs were in any one given reality. Because remember, you're healing all realities right now. So this is how we go through these triggers moment for moment for moment, so that we as masters step up to the plate with our divine sacred heart and Mother, Father, God with us. Say, yeah, I can create a refined choice. I'm a master of my reality. I'm divine living light. I can let that go, and I can reclaim my divine birthright to create light, to create love. And how may we co-create together? When you walk in this way, it doesn't matter what you manifest for yourself as a challenge. It doesn't matter how you've defined it in the past. You can move through that in the knowing that you are the one that defines your reality. You are the one that allows it to be as expansive or as limited as you wish. And so moving through the multidimensional understanding of all that you are is very vast and wide, and let go of definitions, let go of separation and segregation, because that's what's kept us small. That's what's kept us limited and wanting to argue back and forth on what's right and what's wrong. Everybody will find their unique path when they go within and create it for themselves. That's what's so unique about the Christed consciousness. We each have our unique path, and we're each here to create and carve that path as unique masters. That's how we create the inventiveness. That's how we create the socioeconomic shifts and changes into new paradigms, because that's why we're here. Each and every one of us has a gift to shift the perspective of what was into something brand new and pristine in a unique and creative way. And it's lived through every aspect of us. The solar power center is all of us living through the divine center of all that we are. And those energies that we've cleared from all of those chakras come up to help us, and they come up to inspire new energies and come up to inspire new God particles that swim within us. So it's really beautiful when you allow yourself to think of how grand and multidimensional you are, and you bring it all into love and you move with it. That's the divine motherhood energy. All of her children going out to play, and some get bruised and scraped, and they come back and they want guidance and love and nurture and an empowerment and encouragement. And the Divine Mother just brings it into love. That's okay. You're okay. You can do this. You know what you're doing. And then the Divine Mother lets them go and go expand and explore. They come back a little bit later, a little bit bruised and scraped and confused. The Divine Mother brings them into love, and they go back out to explore in a more expanded territory and playground. That's exactly what the Divine Mother Father do with us. We're expanding new territories in every moment that we allow ourselves to be free and exploratory and creative and let go of definition as much as we can.
Well said. And moving on to another subject here, light languages. Now, first of all, language from a third dimensional standpoint. I remember reading in Zecharia Sitchin's book, Stairway to Heaven, I believe it was, second book. He put a lot about the Tower of Babel story in there. Didn't really get into whether or not it was a real story that happened in our reality or if it was something that happened in another reality that was somehow connected to our reality that caused us to get our languages all screwed up. But as the story goes, the Tower of Babel incident caused all of like one universal language to get thrown about into many different languages, and that has, in a sense, sort of caused a bit of a divide and conquer thing on Mother Earth, if you will. In the case of immigration, for example, some who are really picky about treating immigration as a privilege and not a right would say, you want to come to America, speak English. And in Philadelphia several years ago, there was this restaurant owner who got a lot of criticism because he put a sign up saying, want to order a cheesesteak, please speak English. And everybody was like, what's your problem? We're a salad pot. We're a salad bowl. We're a melting pot. Why can't you acknowledge that and tolerate people who choose not to speak English? He says, look, my point is, you come to America, you got to learn the English language. I'm actually trying to help people out by telling them that, so please don't criticize me for this. And, well, I think it turned into a bunch of hullabaloo and all. But the fact is, you come to America, you don't learn English, your choices are limited. And like I said, that's one reason why immigration on this planet is treated as a privilege and not a right, because you got to learn the language of the country you come in. And if you can't, then, well, there goes your chance to immigrate. But if we have universal light languages of sorts, then that would not be an issue. So, well, that's easier said than done. People are asked, how are we supposed to learn these universal light languages so that we won't have these problems that we have in this 3D reality that came as a result of the Tower of Babel incident or whatever other thing it was that caused us to speak different languages that people cannot understand fully.
Well, I mean, our pure universal language is love. And like I said, we're moving away from, and allow yourself to shift your perspective and allowing yourself to step up into a wider arena of love and light by allowing yourself to melt within fourth and fifth dimensional frequencies instead of pulling yourself into this third dimensional reality that you keep referring to. And that's okay. That's a choice and that's a perspective, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can allow yourself to open and align with higher dimensional frequencies and higher dimensional potentials if you so desire. And one of them is to allow yourself to know that the common language of all things is love. We are all encoded with love, and love is a language. It's an energetic frequency, it's an energetic truth, it's an energetic law. Love transmutes all things. And so through love, the highest form of creating information and communication through this is the love, and telepathically communicating it this way. And this is what our healing centers and our universal wisdom centers and all that we are as universal, dynamic, multidimensional beings of light is allowing us to slip fluidly into just releasing of the definitions and the words that we've used and create that new reality for yourself where it's all about love. And that's what you communicate. That's what you involve and soak yourself within. It's just like going into a room and there's a myriad of bathtubs. And in the myriad of bathtubs, you can soak within any one bathtub and they all contain different things. Some are a bit murky, some are a bit flowery and perfumey, and some are this and some are that. It doesn't matter what's in them. But you can choose as a master what bathtub you want to soak within. It's the same as your dimensional reality. You're creating it with your thoughts, your words, and your beliefs. So if your beliefs are continually resonating around the ideas of third dimensional frequencies, then that's where you're going to resonate. However, they don't have to be. You can resonate around higher frequency thought forms and higher frequency beliefs by creating everything as a resonant, as a foundation, as a template through love. That's how we communicate. When a mother eases the crying of a baby, it's all done through telepathy. It's all done through the heart. The mother knows exactly what the baby needs, and the mother goes to the baby and places the baby on the skin, and the baby's immediately soothed. I mean, these have been psychological studies for years. And so it's allowing us to truly open up all that we are as higher dimensional beings and know that there's a higher language that goes beyond sight. It goes beyond sound. And this is why sound is this multidimensional sound that we've been introducing ourselves to is not really sound at all. They're in the etheric field, and you can hear them when you're attuning yourself to your multidimensional bodies. And that's a communication all into itself that we haven't even tapped into. In the axional lines and in the etheric field of all that you are, you're a multidimensional webbing of light. You're giving and receiving information at all times. And what is being written and what's being known, what we've been educated in our systems, is only just the tip of the iceberg. We have many more senses than what we've even tapped into. We're starting to awaken to it now because the physical human body has been refined with our celestial teams, with our spirit guides, to refine us and allow us through those axional creations and refinements, if you will, and all with our spirit and with our etheric spirit and our physical body and so on, to allow ourselves to open up to this multidimensional communication that's happening all the time. And those that are attuned to Gaia, those that are attuned to nature, those that are attuned to wildlife, have this automatic telepathic communication with this type of energy, with the elemental energy. They can be upon Gaia and they can feel Gaia's heartbeat, Gaia's messages. They can walk within a forest and hear nature speak to them. They can get the sensing of what an animal needs in healing. That's why there's so many intuitive healers with animals now. And I call it Gaia speak. I call it wildlife speak. Because there's far more communications than we've ever allowed ourselves to believe. So it's not a matter of continuing to spiral in what's always been. It's about taking yourself outside of and understanding that you're a multidimensional being, you're infinite, you're eternal, and you can communicate in any way you so desire. And one person's idea of light language is not the same as another person's idea of light language, because we all come here with unique star system frequencies. We all come here with unique star system and Akashic soul themes and experiences that we are here to awaken, to create, and to ground, and to create new light templates so that the higher dimensional human walks forward in a much more profound and higher dimensional way. And this is why people that speak light language speak it in a different manner, because they come with different star seed soul blueprints, if you will. And all that we do to create love and all that we do to create light allows us to expand all that we are as communicating beings, which goes far beyond sight and sound. The sound is a higher dimensional sound, and it's multidimensional, and sometimes it doesn't even, when I get multidimensional sounds in my etheric field, I get letters and I get vibratory pullings, if you will, as if it's a thread, and I can just see it as like a big spider web that sits behind me and in me. And I can get a sound deposited into my etheric field, and those axional lines, those neural threads they're held within my body and my inner systems, they pull in a certain area. And then I see letters that allow me to create a sound. And that's multidimensional communication. It goes beyond what we're able to explain, because it's very brand new. This is what's so exciting. I mean, our communication is going to transcend anything we've ever known. And so we can get caught up in arguing about what was, but that doesn't matter because we're just spiraling in what was. We can create brand new ideas and concepts and say, well, our communication is going far beyond. And so let's dig in and let's get busy. You know, let's really get excited about what we're transforming into based on our pure intent to be open, loving beings, our pure intent to communicate with our celestial families, our pure intent to communicate with Mother, Father, God through our hearts, through all things. That's what's exciting, because then you open up to the multidimensional communications that you truly have. Each and every one of us have them. How they awaken, when they come online, and what you're here to use them for, that's the individual soul purpose, the soul destiny, and how we go about changing our earth and creating greater water systems, greater refined inventiveness about how we cultivate food that doesn't harm our planet, that doesn't have chemicals, that doesn't create the health issues that we've had for ourselves because of our lower consciousness states. And so we're really challenging those who so desire and that get excited about transforming thought and letting go. That's been one of the hardest things for humanity, and for myself included, is letting go of all that we've defined ourselves within, and especially the school structures and the everyday work structures. I mean, when you really think about it, I've often thought about this, and my kids inspire me. You know, how have we conceived to buy and sell land? You know, who is it for us to say that we own Gaia or any part of her? It's a beautiful gift from the divine. She's been cultivated over millions of years just so that we could survive and have this beautiful engagement and union with her. So who is it for us to buy and sell parts of her? It just seems so chaotic. It just seems so kind of opposite of what we're here to explore and to experience. But this is exciting because this is where we're on the verge of. We're on that beautiful, beautiful, dynamic, divine wave, and we can choose to ride with the wave into new paradigms of behavior that are completely in harmony with Gaia, in harmony with the divine, in harmony with the heavens. And this is what is meant by humanity creating heaven upon earth, because it comes from our consciousness and our will to behave in a new way, in an enlightened way, in a compassionate way, so that all things are valid. And it's individual free will and free choice on what wave we ride. And it's really exciting how our communication and how we expand within one another to create new ways of thought and letting go of the arguments and the spiraling about in negativity, because it just creates more of that stuff. We can change the wave that we're riding on, and we can create something beautiful and dynamic and truly create, potentiation for humanity to be healthy, to really let go of pharmaceutical business. That's a choice that we make as a collective. When are we ready to let go of the pharmaceuticals and to go within and know that we're self-healers? I mean, that's exciting, to truly know that we can heal ourselves and there doesn't have to be suffering. So that's exciting.
Yes, it is. And you mentioned letting go, and this thing of letting go brings up interesting thing that happened in my life that kind of kickstarted a whole new trend for me, that I think it was no accident that this happened. It was kind of disturbing at the time, but looking back on it, I think this was kind of a wake-up call. The whole issue of surrendering and what it actually means. A lot of people hear the word surrender and think that it's not necessarily a good thing, because if you surrender, you give up, you're a wussy and all that. Well, I had an interesting phenomenon happen to me regarding surrender that kind of led me on a path from negativity to positivity. What happened was, going through airport security many times, I had Egyptian healing rods, which I use for healing. About 8 times they let me go through there. They were suspicious at first when it came up on the scanner, and I explained to them what it was, and it wasn't a problem. And a couple times they told me, all right, well, just be careful going through these. You may want to consider putting these in checked baggage, because not all TSA employees are going to be as kind as we are. Well, I decided to ignore that. And one time when I was going to go down to Arizona for a peyote ceremony, the person in charge of TSA management came up to me and told me I could not bring that on the luggage because it could be used as a weapon. At that point, it was too late for me to put it in checked baggage to put in the plane. So fortunately, I was able to put it, ask the people down at the where you get the boarding passes and all, to ask the people who I got the rental car from to give it to them and put it in my car where I parked in the airport parking lot, and they did that, and I was still able to just in time catch my plane. But when the lady told me that I could either surrender them at airport security, or you got to do something with them, you can't bring them on the plane, I did kind of give her an attitude about it. I was like, okay, give me one good reason why you cannot let me on the plane like the previous 8 times. Is this supposed to be some sort of a joke? And she refused to surrender to me, explaining that this was that her inconsistency was intolerable. And she basically said, without threatening me, she, for all intents and purposes, said, look, do what I say or you're going to get arrested. Do you understand me? So at that point, I decided, okay, I'm going to surrender. Hopefully the angels and guides will be with me to catch my plane and all that. And I did, and I managed to get through it. And I'm thinking, looking back on that incident, and the thing is, after that incident happened, I remembered many times listening to things like metaphysical videos and all that. The phenomenon of surrender kept coming up so much. The word came up so much, like you got to surrender to this, surrender to that if you want to attain higher consciousness. And I was like, what are the odds that I start hearing this shortly after that unpleasant incident at airport security, when they told me surrender the rods or we're going to arrest you. We don't care that the other TS agents before us didn't care. That's the way it's going to be with us. So well, everything happens for a reason, like I said, but regardless of whether I'm right about why I was hassled in such a way, as a wake-up call to teach me how to surrender to things in a positive way, what exactly does the word surrender mean if it's not meant to be used in a negative connotation?
Surrender is the allowance of your divine God self. And what we've believed and what we've created as fears, fears are all illusory. They're personality constructs. And whether the personality comes from a Sirian star system going through their ascension, whether it's the Pleiadian star system going through their ascension, whatever star system that we've come here and threaded with, because it remains in our Akash, it remains in our soul story, if you will, and many, many Earth lifetimes. And because of the beliefs that we've carried, the beliefs create our truths, and the beliefs create our egoic patterns. The beliefs that we create manifest these experiences in our lives. So what we're doing now is we're allowing ourselves to remember, well, we don't necessarily have to live through the karmic debris that we used to in ages and eons of human density and human history. And because we've just been reorganized and restructured within a new set of consciousness grids, and those consciousness grids can allow us to truly let go of what we've thought to be karma, which is our own definitions, our own states of beings of that fear, of that limitation that we've had to work through. However, we can allow ourselves to just purely surrender through our own divine sacred path work, our own sacred honoring work that you do daily with communion with Spirit, communion with Mother, Father, God, communion with creation, and just say, I'm ready to surrender into my divine, heartfelt, God-felt self. And surrender just means that you understand that you're a higher being of dimensional light. You're a higher being of God perspective. You're a higher being that knows what you're doing. And so you're not surrendering into anyone. You're not surrendering into anything. You're not surrendering into any structure. Those are our manifestations and our constructs that we've co-created as a collective to go through density, to experience the earthly dense ride. And that's great because it's taught us so many things. The fears have served us to survive. The fears have served us to create abundance and materialism. We don't have to choose that anymore. Each and every one of us have free will to create the destiny and the desire to create a beautiful reality and harmony that we so desire. It's about surrendering into all that we already are. You don't have to manifest your God self. Your God self is there. It's within you. It always has been, always will be. You can't sever this relationship. It's within every atom. However, our understanding has not been that way. As soon as we come into a frequency of dimension, doesn't matter what dimension that is, we create the separation to create that experience of that dimensional reality. Every dimension has its own rules and paradigms that it constructs around, and the co-creators that are within that dimension co-create those rules of that dimension that we coexist within. The awareness of the beings within that dimensional frequency can shift and change those rules at any point in time. This is why our awareness as a human collective is so very important, because the more aware that you are, the more you begin to speak about these things that are within your heart that are just beautiful, spiraling, beautiful inspirations that you just want to talk about energy. You just want to talk about the beautiful dream you had last night. You want to talk about these energy frequencies that are moving through your body and through these beautiful synchronicities that are coming to life for everybody. These are the symbolisms and the cues from the divine to say, are you going to tune in? Are you going to tune into the God self? Are you going to allow the God self to come out and play? And letting go of the constructs that we've created through density, through belief patterns, through the fears, and truly step up into a heightened reality of being, a heightened reality of illumination, which we all have within. There's not one person that does not have the same God spark that we all have. It's our ability to create that awareness and that beautiful entanglement. And that entanglement is your awareness that you're with energy and you are energy at all times. What's exciting for you is how to move through and how to entangle with it. How am I going to entangle with the trees today? How am I going to entangle with rock consciousness today? How am I going to entangle with the fairy consciousness today, or the Elohim, or the archangels, or Lord Michael? There's energy consciousness in all things. You being a divine being of light, you're going to surrender into whatever it is that you're excited about. And that's how you find your pure destiny, why you're here, your sole purpose. Because when you surrender, you love yourself. Because you can't surrender if you're not loving yourself, because sometimes we do. I've often done that because there wasn't that level of self-love. But the more that you surrender, the more you create self-love because you trust yourself. Self-love is all about self-love creates self-trust because you own and you love and you claim and you honor and you're creating sacred communion and you creating that beautiful reflection of all that you are as a mirrored divine aspect of source. If you feel that within, then every reverberation through thought, word, and deed, and every time your foot places itself upon the planet, it changes. Changes our consciousness, changes our grid, changes our collective consciousness. Therefore, that ripples through creation. Therefore, changing the thought patterns collectively. Therefore, changing what is brought back to you in your experiential, illusory experience. And this is why it's so beautiful. And this beautiful dance that we dance, which is the name of my third book, The Dance with Creation, is about the awakening to the remembrance of who we are as divine beings and surrender into it, because it's an elegant dance of light and love. And then when you awaken to commune with the archangels, they're always with you. The moment you awaken to commune with Christ Collective, or Mother, Father, God within, or your spirit guides, your celestial team that's preparing you for first contact, when you create these entanglements, it's your surrender into it and your excitement and your love that allows that fluidity of energy and communication to take place. And that communication is rarely through the mouth and through the verbal communication. It's all telepathic, and it's through the heart and it's love, as we talked about earlier. So you're synchronistically guiding us into a deeper understanding of who we are and how we communicate and how we dance this dance of energy. And it's much more vast and exciting than we've ever allowed ourselves to play and entangle with. But this is what I see coming for future realities of human experience, is to truly be playful. And we're not necessarily going to work anymore from 9 to 5. We're allowing ourselves to create excitement and follow our excitement and synchronicities in every moment. And there won't be that, we're going to look back one day and say, wow, do you remember when we used to wake up and go to work and someone actually used to pay us? And we used to actually have mortgages and pay bills. We're going to look at that and say, wow, look at how far we've come. That's the surrender into self-love, when you trust and you know what you're doing. And bit by bit, choice by choice, refinement after refinement, you step into and you create this Christed consciousness of all that you are, and you walk forward as the illuminated being that you are. And there doesn't have to be a them against us, because there isn't. They're just the fear personality constructs that you brought with you to heal and bring back to love, like the big mother swan we were talking about. Anything that you find is a them against us is a new perspective of yourself that needs to be brought back in and acknowledged and made whole, because it's all illusory. They're just aspects of yourself requiring your attention, requiring your acknowledgement, requiring you to go in and seek that higher divine essence of all that you are and surrender into it. Because there is only love.
Yes, it's the only truth, and everything else is illusion, as David Icke has been saying for years. With that being said, how are we going to move into New Earth, and what exactly does New Earth mean? Let me give you my take on this. First of all, everybody who studies the work of Dolores Cannon, may she rest in peace, is very familiar with the two Earth phenomenon, but many people get confused when they hear that. I mean, they're thinking, is she literally talking about a physical second Earth forming, or is it a second Earth in another realm that people are going to go to? And if people go to that second Earth, are they literally going to disappear from this world into the other Earth, and the people that are left behind are actually going to notice that we all disappear, and like, where the hell do these people go? Do they just go through a rapture or something? Or is it a completely different phenomenon? And also, how are we supposed to get to this New Earth? Now, you mentioned this whole thing about us waking up to the fact maybe we don't have to worry about money and pay mortgages and all that. Interestingly, I listened to this program on YouTube a few days ago. I had it saved for a couple months. Finally got to watching it, where this guy was talking about some of the things that E.T. contacting Billy Meyer got information from his Pleiadian contacts. One of the things they told him was that about 3 years from now, in the year 2020, will to a great extent see the end of the Roman Empire of the modern era, which of course is the United States, the United States Corporation specifically, if you will, which is the Roman Empire of the modern era, because it invades other countries more than any other country under the guise of fighting for freedom, when in reality it's just a spread Illuminati imperialism. Well, that empire is supposed to, in a sense, come crashing down to a great extent in 2020. And some people like David Icke have said the Trump presidency, a lot of people are jumping on the Trump bandwagon, but David Icke says, I expect it to be like a one-term disaster, but the bright side is, in being a disaster, it's going to raise a lot of people's consciousness, and that may cause the Roman Empire to fall to a much greater extent in the next few years, and especially 2020, as Billy Meyer says. And in regards to money, one could make the argument that as long as we have fractional reserve banking, where the banks loan us money that doesn't exist and charge us interest on the loans, then we are unavoidably going to be slaves, because that system makes debt and inflation unavoidable. And we've been hearing all kinds of stuff the past few years about a global currency reset and an RV. And some people are getting really sick and tired of all this. I personally am saying, can we please just crash the damn dollar already? Because as long as we have fractional reserve bank, we're going to be slaves. Can we please just go to a global currency? I mean, some people have said, well, the reason we haven't had the currency reset yet is not because the bad guys are preventing it, but because the good guys are preventing it, because they feel that it would be too much of a shock to the system. There's so many people on this planet that, especially in America, that aren't ready for the dollar collapsing, that if it did, America would end up like Zimbabwe or Venezuela, where there's going to be chaos in the streets and all hells and riots is going to break loose, and people aren't ready for that. Now, I'm ready for that because I got $2,000 worth of storable food. I got water filters and all that, so I'm ready to say, bring on the chaos and the mayhem. I'm ready to go through it as long as we can get to the go back currency and eventually go back to no currency to join all those other civilizations out there that don't use money that Alex Collier's been talking about. Great. I'm ready to ride through the storm. It's going to work out well in the end. Well, unfortunately, a lot of people aren't ready for that, and that, I hear, is the excuse why the global currency reset isn't happening. But if the Roman Empire of the modern era is supposed to collapse around 2020, you would have to think that maybe it is going to be happening in the future. So I've babbled long enough. What do you have to say about moving to a new Earth? What does it really mean, and how does that tie into the currency reset and the fall of the Roman Empire in maybe the next 3 years?
Well, I mean, it's hard to kind of connect with anything that you've just said because it's still entangled in a lot of them and us and so on. So we'll bring it back to a center point. We'll bring it back to love, and that is all about our understanding of who each and every one of us are as individuals and what we create in our moment for moment refined choice. Our consciousness in every aspect of our reality, whether it's socioeconomic, whether it's the education system, whether it's healthy food, whether it's the pharmaceutical, it doesn't matter what we define our reality in. And each and every person has their own themes that they're here to work on and go back to self and say, why do I hold judgments in this way? Why do I hold a belief pattern in this way? And truly begin to let go of the dynamics of that negative energy that feels as if it has to be an argument or a fight or war, because it doesn't. This is what we're trying to say, is that anything that we've created for ourselves that has that push and pull dynamic about, all chaos breaking loose, it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't. That's the old paradigm of thought, that what we thought we used to be in our dense limitation understanding and what we've created for ourselves in those frequencies, but that's not how it is anymore. We can create the illuminated awareness to say that, well, I'm a being of light. I have greater understanding and I have breath and balance in which I can create refined choice. I can create an open heart. I can create an understanding that what I see occurring without me can also be brought to myself within and say, well, why do I hold judgment in that way? Why do I get excited in a negative way in that way? Why do I feel that it has to be them versus us? And why do I feel that, you've got to create this awareness and this worry about, all of creation crumbling? So those are fears that we're here to let go and move through with love, because it doesn't have to be that way. The new earth that we create, the heaven upon earth that we create, is moment for moment self-love. If you create self-love, then you truly, the dynamic of love, the key core concept of love, feels so good. It feels so loving. It feels so accepting and allowing and sacred. Those are high vibrational words we've used. Those feel so good, and it completely just illuminates and transmutes anything that was said and done in negativity. And you just let them go. They don't exist anymore. You've taken yourself to a new reality frequency when you allow yourself to spiral in that bathtub. So it's about each and every individual saying, well, are you ready to get off the treadmill of them versus us or conspiracy or this and spiral in the circles of negativity? Or you can create the reality for yourself in that bathtub of beauty and soak within something that you create that's unique to you, that's loving for you, that's self-accepting and self-honoring in you. Because nobody feels good when you spiral in those frequencies. It's just debating things that really don't matter, because what matters is the here and now and loving thyself. Because through loving thyself, you create new socioeconomic systems. You create greater abundance. There's more power in love and creating abundance through love, creating abundance and manifestation through love, than there is in any dynamic of going forth and fighting and creating councils of disillusion. And I mean, all of those things that there's energy in, and that's okay. Those are paths to take. There's no discredit to them at all. But what you can allow yourself to do is truly surrender and step into a higher frequency and say, well, am I going to create more enlightenment for myself if I soak within what's real for me, what's true for me? And that's about everybody going within their own unique, individual, divine, sovereign self and saying, how may I create love and how may I create abundance and manifestation for the greater good? Because that's one thing we haven't talked about. We haven't talked about how self-love is automatically serving the greater good. And there doesn't have to be about storing enough food for just thyself. Because in all that you do to serve yourself serves the greater good. And there's more power in that. There's more illumination in that. There's more service to yourself in that. Because you are the all. We are the economic systems. We are the socioeconomic systems. We are the banks. If we change our consciousness to what a bank can be, if we change the consciousness about what we require as far as sustenance and monetary sustenance, if you will, that's where you create change. Is get to the core of why do we feel we need monetary sustenance. And then we bring self-love into that equation. We bring self-love into those communications. And we'll say, well, there's many people here that are here to create dynamic new systems that don't necessarily relate to anything to do with a dollar, but trade and free will of courtesy and skills and gifts. And that's serving the greater good. And that has nothing to do with any one body gaining over any body else. And that's what we have illuminated ourselves around, because those are the densities that we've existed within. But we can step outside of that if we so choose. Don't have to, but that's a choice. And why not create ourselves in every moment for moment for moment, the earth that you choose to be on? And as far as any new one earth, there's a myriad and infinite number of parallel realities. And your vibration that you set in every moment will dictate what reality you experience. This is why we're saying how key it is to center and ground and balance and create self-love, because that is the key core path to illuminate the reality that you exist within. And you can let go of all else, because it's just clouding the energetic space, if you will, that could be placed in more positive and enlightened frequencies, which is illuminating all that you are, so that anything that you create, you're manifesting not only to serve yourself and your soul's destiny, which then, therefore, in the creational wheel of all that is, serves the greater good. And so, in any given moment, one can align with their highest path in any given moment. And all the details and all of those other things kind of get put to the wayside, and they just transmute through your light, through your alignment, through the divine sacred heart, grounding through Gaia, to her very heartbeat, opening to creation and surrender. In this moment of now, as a divine sovereign being of creativity, of divine love, of divine will, for the greater good of the all, may I align with my highest and my best in this moment of now, as I ground the all that I am in light and in love. I choose light, I choose love. And may all manifestations come forward through me this day, so that I may serve the greater good, so that I may serve my soul's destiny and my highest path, so that I may be an example of light, an example of love and acceptance and compassion, and release all frequencies of pain and lack and fear and worry. And you call in the archangels, and you call in the Christ Collective, and you call in Mother, Father, God to be with you in this moment of now as you embrace all that you are as a divine sacred being of light. And you walk forward in light, because it's your pure divine will and the excitement you hold within your heart to create illumination, so that you may experience as one individual, a God personality coming to life. You may experience in this lifetime your Christed self, your God self, your illuminated self that creates a higher path moment for moment for moment for moment, through your thoughts, through your emanations of pure heartfelt love. And that feels so much better. And whatever earth you are meant to be on in any given moment, because your shift every moment, is the one you're meant to be on. So why not align and illuminate moment for moment for moment? And that's all that matters. There will be shifts. There will be the sorting out of energies. But that's for the divine to know, and that's why there's not one person that knows the exact unfolding, because we're not meant to know. It's the majestic unfoldings of the divine Mother, Father, God. What's more important is that each and every one of us in this moment of now reunify our importance and our union and our marriage with Gaia, for she is our Mother Earth. She is our homeostasis. It is the frequency that we align with to be whole and pure and harmony and at peace, so that we're not pillaging from her to gain our own personal way. We are one with Gaia and all wildlife. We always have been. This is the human lesson. If we align with our divine sacred heart and know this from the center being of all that we are, then the concerns about money and war and all of those things that have clouded dense frequencies and negativity are completely dissolved and transmuted by light. Because light is, love is, the amplifier and magnifier of all things. It transmutes all things. It just does. That's how you create the earth that you experience. And it can be defined. It can be separated and segmented however one wants. But how you resonate at the core center of your beingness, that partnership with Mother, Father, God, is what earth you will experience in any given moment. And that's what we're here to remember, the divine Christed consciousness of all that we are, that many masters talked about, the unlimited, limitless human potential that we have. And we're just opening the window, if you will. And there's so much for us to explore. So why not spend our beautiful creational energies in the beautiful heavenly energies that we're co-creating with the unknown? Step into the unknown with excitement. Step into the unknown with fervor and blessings. We don't have to define it, and we shouldn't. It's a heavenly gift. And there's not a lot of people that truly say, well, I'm going to define my new earth. We put those visualizations and creativity into the perspectives that we desire and we get excited about. But there's few people that will say, this is how it's all going to unfold and it's going to be exactly like this. Because there's not one person that knows. That's not the energy that I'm getting. It's a divine manifestation. It's a divine orchestration, and it can't be foretold because there's people awakening in every moment. And the power of the consciousness of one person is so profound that there's not one person that can dictate or tell how it will unfold. That's purely Mother, Father, God. That's how magical this entire experience is. And when one person awakens, it shifts and changes the entire collective story. That's why it's so exciting as a light worker. Because we don't really want to know the unfolding. We really don't want to know the ins and outs, if you will. We all have those imaginings. Well, I wonder what it's going to look. I wonder this. We all have those excitements. But as to how we surrender into it and let it all unfold in divine timing and divine orchestration as the heavens have always done, and if you trust yourself, you understand that you're going to be exactly where you need to be. Our role is to create self-love and create self-manifestations through that love. That assists us in creating the light templates of what we walk upon, of what we experience. And that's much more here and now. And if we do that, then we're doing exactly what we should to experience the reality of what's been so-called termed the new earth. Because the new earth is right here, it's right now. It's just your perspective.
Thank you. It all comes down to perspective, and well, there's other things too, but perspective is without question a big role in it. And when we get to that new earth, there's a little bit of controversy about how we'd have to go about our lives, whether or not we would have to use things that one might construe as a consciousness crutch. That may be a strong word, but the reason I use that word is when I interviewed Stuart Swerdlow, he was very big about the whole saying that we're all infinite consciousness, therefore you shouldn't need to use anything like a crutch. He even went as far as saying things like gemstones and crystals, and even asking your angels and guides is a crutch, because if you're infinite consciousness, you wouldn't have to do those things. And I'm telling him, okay, well, fair enough, but at the same time, variety is the spice of life. Don't you want to maybe use those crystals and gemstones just to have a little variety, have a little fun, and enhance things? And, well, it was kind of an agree to disagree kind of thing, but I bring this up mainly because when the new earth happens and when we do get into 4D, 5D consciousness, one might envision like a world where there's like crystals everywhere, shiny bright lights, and everybody is asking angels and guides for help all the time. But on the other hand, you might not actually have to see any of that stuff, because one might think, okay, if we're going to ascend to higher consciousness, we won't need to have crystals and gemstones everywhere, because we can all do the magic without them. So what do you expect the 5D, 4D Earth to look like? Are we going to have like crystals, gems, and light beings everywhere, or are we going to realize we're all infinite consciousness, so we really don't have to have all those crutches, if you will, for lack of a better word, if that's what you want to use?
Well, the fifth dimensional perspective also comes with rules and paradigms that we collectively and we co-create together. So there will be rules and paradigms that we're going to move within. We're creating them as each person awakens and decides and chooses to be upon that frequency. And so, I have great reverence for all life, for all consciousness. And because I connect with a myriad of universal consciousness at any given time, I have great reverence and great love because I know it's me. So I would never use the words that were used in that way. I create great reverence and love and grounding with all consciousness, with all heavenly orders, with all heavenly hierarchies, with all human hierarchies. So for me, I understand that consciousness is consciousness and we're one in the all. Fifth dimensional frequencies will be individual and unique experiences for each and every person based on their readiness, based on their preparedness. Have they done the clearing? Have they prepared themselves and let go of limiting beliefs and negativity and so on and so forth? Letting go of having to define and separate things in little tiny boxes and so on. How you prepare yourself and why we wrote the Ascension Pathwork book is important for what you experience in any given moment. And so if we allow ourselves to say, okay, we've shifted, this is the new earth, what it looks like is different to each and every person. For me, it will consist of beautiful crystals and crystalline temples and crystalline pyramids, which exist right here, right now. Those with a higher frequency can see, and this is why there's beautiful experiences happening with those that are moving through their higher phases of all that they are. They're beginning to see and create right before their eyes what they need to see to let them understand that we're in a multidimensional universe, that each and every one of us can have a unique experience. Those that heal through crystals and sound and color. Once we hit the fifth dimension, it doesn't mean that we're 12th dimensional consciousness. The fifth dimension still has form. The fifth dimension still has physical beingness in it. So to say that we're all illuminated to infinite consciousness, that's not what the fifth dimensional frequency is. Every dimensional realm has its rules and paradigms that we work within. That's how we expand evolution. That's how we expand the universe. We've co-created and we've agreed as a collective to move through these steps as a human family. That's why many of us are here, is to assist one another. As you awaken, our whole family awakens, and our whole family is here for the ride, whatever that ride may be. And so allowing that new earth perspective to be right here, right now, and my excitement and for what I know to be true for my own personal experiences and my own personal intuitiveness, there will be crystals in all ways and all how, because crystals are the illumination of light and love. It's an alchemic it's a transaction and it's an equation. And crystals are consciousness. Crystals hold tremendous amounts of illumination for us to learn through. And that's going to be a big part of this fifth dimensional remembrance, is how do we heal ourselves? And there will be crystalline healing temples, and there would be pyramids. That I see a lot of temple work coming into our fifth dimensional consciousness. We will still be walking in human form. We will have the ability to see higher light beings. We will have the ability to commune with and entangle with celestial beings on and off world. And this will be a part of our future, if you will, based on the readiness and the preparedness that you allow yourself to open into love. It is all about love. So constructing and kind of limiting yourself with definitions and what you think you need and what you think you don't need, that's only limiting the grandness of what's available. And for me personally, this is my own personal perspective and what all of my work is about, is to empower and inspire humanity on the all that they are. And so if one is saying in anyone's statement is that, that's not me, I don't need that. Well, that's you. Those angelic frequencies are you. Those crystals are you. That tree is you. Those animals are you. All things in existence are you. So the more that you open and love this and entangle with that relationship, that expands your awareness. That expansive awareness allows you a grander playground to play in. Your awareness is the playground that you play within. The more limiting your awareness is, the more limiting your playground will be. We won't need what we think is what we need in the fifth dimensional frequency. We won't need the material things that we think we need. It's about letting that stuff go, letting the material world go. And more of us are finding that what we used to find excitement, like going shopping and getting things and buying things and getting the stuff and having these things define us, are not really important anymore. We just don't want to do it. It doesn't feel good. because our interests and our energy are more infused with divine source frequency. And so we can let that stuff go. Absolutely. We've experienced it. It's been a part of that density rule, if you will, that density game. But the higher dimensional frequencies will allow us to play in a whole new way, and we'll have new things to play. We'll have new explorations and rediscoveries to remember. Healing through crystals, healing through color, healing through sound, communing with the archangels, communing with all angelics, because there's an infinite number of council parties, if you will, and angelic frequencies that we're linked and entangled with. Angels of tone, angels of color, angels of creation, the Elohim, the creator gods. So all aspects are valid. All aspects are purposeful. We're sown within every one of them. That's why we have access to every one of them. And so to say that any one thing is not necessary, it's still a part of our story. It's a part of our re-entangling with spirit, for spirit is us. We are in all things and all things are in us. Again, we go back to the three concepts. Who are we? What do we exist within? And what exists within us? If you ask yourself those three questions every morning, and you allow yourself to be open and explore as a divine sovereign being that you are, you will find beautiful synchronicities coming to you to show you the all that you are. And it won't be limited. It won't be defined as, well, you're a human and you're stuck in this human world, and all of those beautiful things that we are as humans. But you're going to be really sacred and honoring with your human life, because your human life is so much more than we thought. This is why what we're moving through right now as a collective is the collective energy is inspiring us to really truly create understanding and awareness to what the word sacred means, what your divinity means. And if we just stop and have a few minutes of quiet, heartfelt reflection every day about who are you? What does it mean to be divine? What does it mean to be sacred? When you truly open up and allow yourself to intend yourself to be sacred, you shift and change the words in your thoughts, because they're vibrational meanings, they're vibrational mantras. And you think a little bit longer before you say things. And you step a bit lighter on the planet, and you change things. And you allow your heart to open to all beings, because your intention of being sacred, your intention of being the divine beauty that you are, creates a different sense of frequency within you. Your cells move in a different way. And what creates more of a change, a result, initiation, is if you speak to yourself in this way and speak to others in this way. And how we can change the whole vibrational conversation by allowing each other to know that you're divinely sacred. So allow yourself to step up to a new frequency, dear one. If you so choose, if you so desire, allow yourself to be all that you are in this divine moment, for you're sacred, you're honorable. And so move forward in this way, and your earth reality can be whatever you want it to be, limitless.
Yes, infinite potential is what we all seek to get, regardless of what dimension we are in. Moving on to something else I'm reading here in your bio here on the Galactic Connection interview. You have fascinating remarks to make about the role of the oceans, the cetaceans, dolphins and whales, and Sirius in this process. I'd like you to elaborate on that, but not just Sirius. It's also been said that the Pleiades star cluster and Sirius is in a orbit with our solar system. Clearly, gravity is not the only force at work there. There's obviously some other force at play that mainstream science is hiding from us that causes Sirius, the Pleiades, and our solar system to be in rotating all around each other in some orbit. Interesting to ask, why is it that those three systems, Sirius, the Pleiades, and us, what is it significant about them that causes them to be like in an orbit with each other? And also cetaceans, dolphins, and whales. Patricia Corey, I talked about this in my interview with her. She had a lot to say about it, about how dolphins and whales, a lot of them are higher dimensional beings from other worlds that have come to this planet. And it's a shame the Japanese and all the other people out there that are killing the cetaceans don't realize that. I wish they would stop. And the role of the oceans, how does Fukushima play into this? I've heard that after Fukushima happened, a lot of good ETs realized, okay, this is obviously a global extinction event. We have to get involved. We have to break our no involvement with Mother Earth and helping the humans, clearly, because if we don't, then humanity is screwed. So they decided to get involved and help us and limit the amount of radiation that's affecting, but that doesn't mean the Pacific Ocean, the other oceans too, are not going to be in trouble because of that disaster. But hey, I'm digressing and babbling. What do you have to say about the ocean cetaceans and Sirius and the Pleiades and this whole process of awakening?
Well, the movement of our beautiful planet is right from the very center core, and the very center core emanations that Gaia puts forward in her love and her transformation. Remember, she's a consciousness body, alive and awake just as we are, moving through transformation just as we are. It's created from the dynamic central sun of our universe, and the dynamic plan of our universe, and how our universe evolves and how our universe moves into a new universal cycle, which is what's happening. Many months ago, I had a vision given to me when I was in the dentist chair. And for some strange reason, I get these visions when I'm in the dentist chair. And this vision that was gifted to me was a kind of a top view, a bird's eye view, if you will, of what's happening in the universe itself and how we are shifting into a whole new universal structure. So in all that we do in our consciousness and all that we do moment for moment, we're creating the light templates of these new universal structures that we shift into. Because remember, all things within our universe, it's an omni field, the endless infinite field of Mother, Father, God, the creator mind of all that is consciousness. And we add to it, we give and take from it. It's a communication that is always ongoing and always shifting and changing based on who we are within. And so this consciousness shift that our whole universe is moving through is because of the dynamic of all planetary frequencies within and the planetary consciousness within. And they're moving through their own universal cycles just as we are. And so these brothers and sisters, and we call them galactic brethren, because they've moved through their own initiations of ascension, if you will, in parallel timelines. They're here to assist and to help in every way because they're us in other frequencies, they're us in other threadings, to assist us with the physical and the biochemical structures and refinements that are needed to shift into a whole new dynamic of dimensional energy. And so if we look at the top view, we see Mother, Father, God, Creator in the center of our universe and the myriad and infinite number of planets and life forms that exist all throughout our universe. Each one has its own consciousness blueprint. Every planet, every star system, every galaxy has its own soul blueprint, the purpose and the orchestration of why it exists, each adding to each other. And why each and every one of us is a cog in the wheel that we also add to each other with our collective family, our human family, adds to the whole of all that we are as a galactic family, and so on and so forth, out to the grander all. And it doesn't matter what we define it, whether it's omni field, the manifested field, it doesn't matter what we call it. But what matters is that we understand is that there's grander orchestrative plans of evolution that we're connected and linked with and threaded with in every way. And that's what we've forgotten. We've forgotten, and this is why it's so exciting, is because as we're preparing to open up all that we are, in our divine illumination, we're opening up and preparing for the galactic preparations for first landing, the first contact, awakening us and opening us up to our galactic family that's always been there. It's always been here. They've always been connected and entangled with us, helping us. They are our celestial guides, our spirit guides. It's just that we've had a different perspective and a belief about it based on our co-creative agreements, based on what we've agreed as a collective to come here and experience and transcend. So when you look at it that way, you can let go of all of the worry and all of the kind of the energies that kept you in arguments and spiraling around in certain themes of beliefs, because you can understand that they're divine orchestrations of evolution and you're entangled with every one of them in some way. That's why when many people go through the awakening process, they awaken to many visions and many dreams of celestial beings that look nothing like them, but they are them. And that's preparing them, and that's getting them used to who are you in a grander version of all that is. Because it's not the human evolution is very profound and powerful because we are the farthest away from our central sun, which means we are the densest frequency, because the closer you get to the central sun, the higher in frequency dimensional realm that you are. And it's just the less rules that you are governed by, if you will, and you're closer with source, if you will. But the human ride in this potentiation, if you will, if you want to look at space in that way, but it's all within, we're evolving into our reunification with source, with Mother, Father, God, the central sun. As we reunify with this profound godness of all that we are within, we understand that we're much grander and vaster, and we're connected with a myriad of star systems that we're all co-creating and helping within. And the work that we do here and now, our divine soul plan, all that we've come here with and we were excited about to follow and get started with, is also assisting with all the other councils and the star plans and the star systems that we're existing within. And this is why we can see it all a beautiful, loving, free-flowing river of life, which is what it is. Source breath, source life is the breath of life, because there's evolution happening in every corner of our existence. And our whole universe is moving into a new universal cycle, which therefore will create new evolutionary experiences and potentiations for every star system within it. That is also moving along with the plan, if you will, the higher agendas of the heavens. And so there's grand and divine orchestration, and it's not about, kind of outlining exactly what or will not happen, but what we're allowing people to understand is the grander version of what we're linked and threaded with. And I often, a while ago, I got a vision of a beautiful quilt, and this beautiful quilt, and I think I wrote about it in my book, and every quilt has different threads and different textures and different fabrics. This is the human soul in and of itself. And if we look at the mirror reflection, it's Mother, Father, God, the beautiful quilt of creation, the beautiful all that is, of all that is. And there's even worlds and consciousness beyond that. We just don't have words for them, and that's okay. But what it allows us to do is be expansive in our creativity. That's what allows human evolution, is expansive in our creativity. That's why we have creativity. It's the most important key tool that we have to create, is love and creativity. Because with those two tools, you can do anything. Your imagination is infinite, and it can thread with your higher self and out to the universal mind and create whatever it is that you're here to create. It's when we limit ourselves with beliefs and patterns that you're not a part of that blanket and that your thread doesn't matter. Your thread matters in every way. Make no doubt about that. Your thread has certain texture. Your thread has a certain color and illumination, your core frequency that you resonate at, that the entire heavens can see you resonating at your unique frequency. Not one person has the same frequency resonance. We are all different. We are all unique and required. And if we have allowing ourselves to really, truly get excited about all that we are, and we start beginning to talk about these things in open dialogue and excitement and exuberation, then, many people allow themselves to feel okay with their expansiveness, because many people feel left out and they don't fit, because many of these concepts are not talked about in our everyday conversations, in our everyday communion with family, and why we say the words that we say in the way that we say them, so that we can create new ideas and vibrations of how we communicate with one another. Allow yourself to create sacred time. And what does sacred time mean for you? And how can you create sacred time with your family? And if we imbue just a few tiny things every moment, in every way, you raise your vibration and you begin to behave as a higher dimensional being of light, because you truly honor all that you are, and it's seen in all things. And you can see from a higher bird's eye view, if you will, the beautiful quilt of creation that Earth is, the beautiful colors that she comes within, and the beautiful threads in her oceans that regenerate synchronistically based on the evolutionary plans of our planet. And that's what oceans are key for. That's why we have so much water. They are key. They are the key catalyst. They carry vibrations. For remember, all that we are is most comprised of water. H2O, the element that creates life, the element that creates and carries vibration, the Christ consciousness within. And how this is the catalyst for moving vibration and energy throughout our entire planet, the grid system of Gaia, her axional body print, if you will. The grids, and why we have grids, and why we are understanding our energy lines between us and Gaia are so integral, and they're so beautiful in our thinking and our understanding of when we walk upon Gaia, she feels us. So in what state of being are you walking about Gaia? Are you thrashing about in negativity and chaos? Or are you going to walk about with a lighter foot because she feels you and she knows you and she remembers you from so many lifetimes in this now moment? And how you can heal Akashic threadings, and how you can heal who you are as a dynamic being of light with so many grid systems and potentials. And the oceans are very key for renewing energies, for renewing frequencies, and how the tides come and go, especially in evolutionary times. The tides will change drastically and dramatically to assist us in the cleansing, to assist us in the renewing, to assisting us in the rebirth as an evolutionary community and collective. We are all one, and we are one with the oceans, and we are one with all that is, allowing us to evolve in such a profound way that we're truly awakening to our link and what is connected and entangled within us, and how water will be so very key for our future potentiation and our inventiveness, and how we use water, and how we use and really create sacred understanding for water and for Gaia. Because water and Gaia and our energy and our awareness of energy will be very, very key in all of our higher dimensional inventions and changes of socioeconomic paradigms. And they're all natural elements, and we don't have to deplete or degrade any part of Gaia to be one with it and to be in harmony with it. And there's people here that will come to life and that will create their own excitements through beautiful renewable water and renewable and ways to clean the air and ways to correct some of the damage that we've done. This will be a part of the fifth dimensional healing. So much of what we're experiencing is part of our ability to heal what we've created in what we say other lifetimes, but are all now. As we raise our consciousness, we find easier and more fluid and smooth and harmless ways that we affect one another. And that's what unity consciousness is all about. Fifth dimensional consciousness is really the Christ consciousness waking within to know that you are all. So as you make a decision, you affect the all. That's unity consciousness. And so the fifth dimensional frequency is about that. It's about your pure understanding and that depth within you to know that every thought, every word, every deed affects the all because it's you, and it reverberates back to you, and it will show you very quickly where you are resonating, and therefore refine choice, and therefore realign, redefine, and you're allowing yourself to ever amp up to new frequencies of exploration and discovery, and how threaded you are with all things, whether it be the ocean or the cetaceans, how we're dynamically entangled with the Sirians and the Pleiadians, and how their energy frequencies and evolutionary plan and blueprint within our galaxy is assisting us and allowing us to move through different galactic vibrations and placements so that we are exactly where we need to be when we need to be there. And it's all divinely orchestrated. We're a part of it, and it's a part of us. So it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful entanglement, and it's a beautiful dance.
I'd love to be part of the dance myself. But one way to become part of that dance, we got to break free of some of the things that keep us out of 4D, 5D. And one of those things is the illusion of time. In my interview with Jim Self, he made it clear that in 3D, time is reactionary. I guess the best way to describe that is it's in the present moment, it's reactionary, and you have a reaction to something that happened in the past or will happen or could potentially happen in the future. And when you get to higher dimensions, densities of consciousness, that sensation of reaction does not exist. Therefore, the entities can exist in the moment. So how to break free of this illusion so we don't have a reactionary sense? Well, easier said than done. I mean, some things that I follow try to get out of the habit of looking at the clock, and also like whenever you're watching things like YouTube videos and all, try to get out of the habit of looking at the timer to see how long the video is. You may be tempted to do that, but that's going to keep you in the illusion of time. So try to discipline yourself. Now just live in the present. Don't look see how much time has passed on the video, how much longer it is. Just keep watching it, and that'll help you get out of the time illusion. Now there are times, of course, no pun intended, where you have to be concerned about time. Like anybody who's a 9-to-5 job has to pay attention to that. And also, if you're big on astrology and alignments, and you like synchronizing your meditations and rituals with things like sunrise, moon set, moonrise, solar noon, and other alignments of the stars and planets, then I guess it would make sense to check out what times in the almanac the times say those things are, and then pay attention to the clocks around you to make sure that you can do your meditation and ritual at that time to make the most of it. But that's like a rare and reasonable exception. But well, even then, some might argue you're keeping yourself in the illusion of time if you do that. So how are you supposed to be able to do that without having to look at the clock or look at the almanac to see when I should time my rituals and meditations? So what advice can you give us to expand our consciousness to break free of the illusion of time to enter 4D and 5D?
Well, time is directly related to your openness and your awareness in the moment of now. And in the moment of now is all about self-love. And so as you're opening your divine sacred heart and you're really, your unconditional focus and your unconditional presence, if you will, your state of being is your presence, where you allow all that you are in that moment of presence to really drop to your divine sacred heart and be in that moment of now. All things exist now. And you let go of all else that is kind of resonating and was the illusion that you were kind of hanging on to. And, all of us are moving through those, those awakenings and those expansive discoveries on what we know to be true about time and space. And time and space have always been directly related to us because that's how we've been taught in our schools and in our books and, a science class. However, time and space is it's like a part of the equation of the all. And when you're ruminating and resonating in love, which is the portal to all information, to all wisdom, to all travel, to all whatever it is that you're excited about, when you resonate with that divine open heart, then the divine sacred mind, which is your higher self, you're bringing in the information that already exists, either in your etheric field or in your quantum field or in who you are as your divine sacred heart, your DNA. So it's always, kind of spiraling. In the center point of love creates all things, and it creates your idea to be, in limitation of requiring that time and space illusion. And it will be still a part of our reality in the fifth dimension. It just won't be so much so. There won't necessarily be, what we call, your daily routine, if you will. And that will slip away more and more for people. And it already is. I mean, there's more and more people that are changing the dynamic about, their living accommodations. And there's a lot more communal living. There's people just moving and creating new ideas of what they know to be true about, their daily existence and what it has to look like. That's changing dramatically and very quickly based on the consciousness and the awakening of who we are in this now moment through our ideas of love. And it can be anything. And so to allow yourself to totally slip within an all momentary now, divine essence is, again, self-love. It's, again, dropping to the heart and being in that presence. That full presence of love, it's just all-encompassing. And that's why it's called the all-encompassing essence of Mother, Father, God, because when you're there, when you're in that presence, it kind of takes over all things, and you be that essence of love. And you're just exactly where you need to be when you need to be there. And that's why we're led more innately, we're led more creatively, we're led more synchronistically through our excitement and through synchronicity, because synchronicity allows you to truly see how aligned you are with your center self. When you see synchronicities unfolding in your everyday life, that's creation telling you that you're aligned, keep going. Synchronicities are also negatively aligned, and you can change that very quickly by your core frequency. And so synchronicities tell us in any given moment where we're resonating, and for the master to redefine and realign and choose a higher choice as far as your frequency is concerned. And so we have a choice to move whatever thread we want. And I look at time and space as a big spider web, and that's how I see it, essentially, I guess, in various spider webs, kind of layered, not necessarily right on top of each other in some instances, yes, but right now it's more just the corners of the spider webs touch, kind of overlapping one another. And these spider webs are dimensional frequencies, if you will. Dimensional realms. And the spider web, you can see yourself on whatever thread that you exist upon, whatever star system you exist upon, and as a particle of light. And you know that you're connected with it all, and that web connects you to all aspects of you. And the very center of the web is that Mother, Father, God particle that exists within also every particle, the center of every particle on that web. And then there's another web just slightly overlaying the very tip of that spider web. And that spider web might be a new universal perspective. So now there's many people that are awakening to their multiverse perspective. They can sense themselves on another universe even. And that's that spider web that's just touching the threading of that spider web, and it's threading you information that you need to create and co-create in this now moment. And you're opening up to those expansive, heightened communications. It's not necessary we have to define it. It's not necessary that we have to picture it and prove it, because most majesties of heavens cannot be proved, and it's supposed to be that way. We're supposed to surrender into the allowance of all that is magical, all that is divine, and just play and have fun. And when you allow yourself to see that all things are happening right now in the spider web of all that is, then you let go of what importance time really had, because you're healing the past by opening to love now. You're healing your future by opening to love now. And that changes the whole spider web and where you exist upon in future frequencies, if you will. So the more you open up to love and forgive yourself and give compassion to the neighbor and give compassion and forgiveness to those that you've been co-creating and contracting with to heal certain themes and certain star system themes and Akashic triggers that you've come here with, they open you up and they truly heal the all. And that's why we've said, so I envision it like a spider web, and it's easier for people to envision it this way. And you're a particle on any point in any part of that web based on your excitement to explore whatever that thread of frequency gifts you. And every thread has a new gift. That's why we've chosen this earth thread. It's been a profound gift of human potential that we would have never had to explore unless we've taken this beautiful earthly ride. And all earthly lifetimes are threaded with this now moment. And why, when we just let go and open to love, it just feels so good. And you just feel aligned with higher and higher threads of light, of love. And you keep threading yourself in these ways when you're opening yourself to excitement. And you can feel the beautiful golden consciousness threads pulling you from your heart center, saying, come this way, go that way. They're the soul threads that are telling you how vast you are and how deep you're threaded through all things. And sometimes why people are changing their vocations, because they're getting grand excitements and pull. It feels like an inner pull. And that's why I first awoken. I was getting that inner pull that was right in your gut, right in the belly center point of all that you are. And you get those stirrings that, wow, something's not quite right here. I need to do something, but I just don't know what it is. Those are those inner pullings to go within and be silent and graceful and present with your higher self, with all that you are as a spirit. And then the cues and the symbols and the majesties of the heavens open to you when you ask those inner questions of divine excellence of yourself. Then you start building that beautiful sacred path of all that you are, and you start finding that all of these threads are just coming to you, opportunities and gifts, and someone gives you a book and gifts you something, and you learn and remember something which causes a DNA activation. This is how those soul threads interact and interlace with the grander version of all that you are, and why we don't necessarily need we won't necessarily need those types of material tools, if you will, because that we will initially awaken to all the information we have within. But as we're transitioning into our understanding of our massive expansiveness, we sometimes need the everyday tools and the everyday books and the everyday classes that help initiate us into what we already are. I mean, most people, when we have sessions or private sessions or classes or meditations or alignments, many times it's just great excitement to commune and be with Soul Tribe. And you just, in that energy of being with Soul Tribe that just want to be with you, even though they may not know each other in their conscious awake state. But the higher selves absolutely know they're there. And we collect and we gather and we commune and we just sit and be present with each other's energy. That in and of itself creates a beautiful portal of potentiation. And anything that we intend and anything that we ground and anything that we move forward in our exploration and our discoveries creates beautiful light and potentials that may unfold in another thread in another way. And, somehow, some way, something creates. And that's how powerful love is. It threads through all things, and so too are you. And so this is the idea that I bring to the table about time and space. And you let go of your illusion about what it really is, because when you see it in a new perspective, when you allow it to live through you in a higher truth, then you create that higher truth reality. And you don't necessarily have to watch the clock for where you have to be. You'll just be where you need to be. Because sometimes and oftentimes, when you're paying attention to the clock and you're allowing yourself to create busyness around having to be somewhere at a certain time, You may often miss the majesties and the synchronicities that are being gifted to you outside of that busyness, because that's not where the divine is. I mean, the divine is in all things, but you know what we're saying. When you're flowing with the divine sacred heart of all that you are, the beautiful majesty that aligns you with your purest, highest destiny is in those moments where you surrender and let go. And that's when all time and no time exists all at once. And that's the beautiful ride that this human experience and this human gifts has been, really blessed upon us. Because we get to see the juxtaposition of all things. We get to see the duality and the polarity of all things. And we've learned to be masters through it. Have we not? Have we all been to, family engagements or social engagements, and we've allowed ourselves to see things from a higher perspective instead of reacting? We can sit with great observational perspective and heart and compassion and openness. And thus, therefore, changing the whole energy in the room, changing the outcome, changing the reality before and after, if you know what we mean. For all things are right here, right now. And when you allow yourself this understanding that the peace and the love exists within the crucible center of it all, that's your mastery to refine choice to say, well, I choose to go this way. I'm more excited to do this now. And that's what we have as masters, to bring ourselves back to center point, to be the observer with compassionate and loving unconditional eyes and hearts, and then assist in any way that we can, for we are all serving one another. We're all brethren, regardless of skin color or religion or country that we live in, or regardless of how awake, those are that are around you. They're still brethren. They're still Christed brothers and sisters. And that's how the heavens and all that has been so devoted and committed to each and every one of us. We're all one. And we give with great love and compassion and devotion and commitment because we're all the same family. We just forgot that we were.
Yeah, we're all one, and that leads into what I was going to want to talk about next. Looking here on your website, on the Sacred Inner Temple's Light page, some topics outline thing here. Number 10, quantum entanglement in the dance with creation. Quantum entanglement, what Einstein referred to as spooky action at a distance. He couldn't make sense of that because it seemed to violate his third dimensional way of looking at things, that the speed of light is the cosmic speed limit. Well, he was wrong on that one, and I'm sure that in his afterlife he's now saying, please, I want you guys to forget I said that. By all means, move on. That was a flaw on my part to be down to that thinking level. But quantum entanglement, it shows that the reason it works, as people like David Icke have said, is because space and time are illusions. Therefore, there really is no distance between two particles that vibrate in sync with each other. But quantum entanglement, some people think maybe that is it true that holds the key to understanding how synchronicities can happen, because one might say if there was no quantum entanglement, there could be no synchronicities, because the phenomenon of synchronicity is caused by the same science that allows for quantum entanglement to exist. Am I right about that, or am I wrong about that? So to help make sense of quantum entanglement and all the other things that mainstream scientists don't understand, do you have anything to elaborate on this subject?
I think you just said it perfectly. I mean, quantum entanglement is your ability to understand that you're one within it all. And at another frequency level, at another depth of your understanding, you're creating that synchronicity to entangle with, and it's all done quantumly. It's done at the most minute particle of who we are as God's spark. And you're creating that manifestation in a quantum way, in an energetic way, in the most divine and elegant way. And that's why I've always, created, understanding about how elegant this beautiful ride is. And even the most, what you might think would be seemingly unnoticeable things that unfurl in your life, they're all done at a manifestational level that is really who we are in all ways, in the most elegant of ways, so that we see what we need to see, and we learn what we need to learn, and we love what we need to love. And so you've said it perfectly. I mean, when you allow yourself to be that particle of all that is, you create the quantum energy and the quantum mechanics to create the experience, or to create the meeting, the synchronistic meeting, or the synchronistic, what we call deja vu. Whatever it is that you need to awaken to a more expansive idea of who you are, what you exist within, and what exists within you, then you allow yourself to take yourself to a new level of awareness. And that awareness is the consciousness field that just says, wow, someone just took themselves to a new level. The consciousness field in the all expands and has been made valued of that. And we just want to go back because, the energy that we co-created earlier about our manifestations of what we believe to be true about, dimensional realities and numbering them and having that attention that we create titles and definitions for. And we want to understand that all that we are in every frequency, it doesn't matter. And this is why I rarely talk about, this is the third, this is the fourth, this is the fifth, this is the second, because it really creates the idea of limitation. And we can say limitation in any way, even if we say ninth or 10th dimensional, because we're putting that in a box. But what we want to get back to is understanding that whether you're in a third dimensional frequency or fourth dimensional frequency or fifth or sixth or seventh or eighth, they each have their own paradigms of structure that they resonate within and they co-create within and they move about life within. That still is infinite. It's still infinite. That fourth dimensional frequency is still infinite. It's still vast and it's still valued and it's still required and it's still. So what we want to say, and we want to back up in that frequency, is that all things within everyone experience, all things within any one person's experience, it doesn't matter what we're talking about, whether it's time or dimensional frequency or the new earth shift, whatever it is, that particular particle of energy that we've described as 3D is still infinite in and of itself. And so we want to allow that reverberation of gratitude, that reverberation of reverence, that reverberation of light and love in all that we define. And that's where we really want to bring energy back to. In all that we've talked about since the moment that we've got on is to bring reverence and gratitude back to all that we've discussed, because it's required and it's necessary and it's valued to creation. And this is the hierarchies of the heavens coming through, if you will, to say that all aspects of those listening, regardless of what your experiences were or may be, it's all valued with great reverence and respect by all beings in creation, because this is a valuable, courageous, brave and time of great consciousness creation. And when we create every moment that we can to know that in this moment, this is the most valuable moment I have. And it doesn't matter what dimensional resonance it is. It really doesn't. Because the ninth dimensional, beings, they have often said to me, well, it doesn't matter what you define us as, is whether it's a ninth dimensional light being or I have form and I'm in the sixth dimension, because we're all one. They see that threading. They understand that threading. But what we're saying is that it's not a value of importance or it's not a value of awakenedness, because they know that we're all threaded, we're all one. And so we want to bring great reverence and gratitude to all that we are in whatever dimension that we're speaking about, because it's all required and it's made us who we are. It is who we are. And the more that we create that gratitude and reverence and ownership, and claiming ownership is really key for moving beyond, because I've gone through so many layers and levels of that, is owning and claiming all those resonances that have made us feel left out or made us feel like we don't belong or made us feel less than. And this is what has sometimes got out of context in the whole ascension and enlightenment world, if you will, because we've placed value on what it means to be 3D. We've placed value on what it means to be human. And that's one of my roles, to come forward and to say, every bit of our ride, every bit of it, even in our most traumatic and tragic experiences, they create the story of all that we are. When we create gratitude and ownership and reverence of that, this gives us the love power in this here and now to alter and shift every past experience, even our socioeconomic system. As much as we say it might be in the powers of the government, because we are the government, we can create that love power in this now moment by giving gratitude to every earthly lifetime, to every earth being, to every earth ride, to every earth experience, to every conversation we've ever had. And we can give it gratitude and reverence and hold love for the value in everything that unfolds, because it brings us to the awareness that, wow, I'm in that. I'm in the middle of it. So how can I refine my love? How can I give love and be open to love and be vulnerable to owning and being all that I am as a human? Because it's a glorious ride. And many, many beings in the universe weren't able to come on this ride because we were the chosen ones to come forward and to gift all that we are. and to gift all that we can so that we can thread through the other councils and groups that we're existing upon and truly come forward with beautiful experiences. I mean, they're all on the ride with us anyways, because that's just oneness. That's unity consciousness. But you know what we're saying. In human form, if you will, they live through us. Mother, Father, God live through us. But we want to give reverence and gratitude to everything that we've discussed as far as how we've defined it to be 3D or 4D or 5D, because we usually don't go in those territories of defining things in that way, because the human mind wants to put placement and judgment and value on it, and that's not where it's coming from the divine's point of view. The divine's point of view is all, everything without question. There's great respect and reverence for all life, for all experiences, for all conversations, because it allows us to thread new heightened awareness in every way. And so there's been great value in our conversation today, and there's been great reverence that we've gained and we've earned with one another in this way. So I want to thank you.
I want to thank you too. Still got 15 minutes to go, and looking at one more thing here on the topics outline, soul blueprint. I want to elaborate on what that means. Well, first of all, interesting topic that always seems to come up in conversation, the difference between soul and spirit. Some cultures say it's two different words for the same thing. Others say there is a distinct difference. George Kavassis, for example, has described soul as eternal essence, and consciousness and spirit emanate from soul. Conscious is the awareness of being aware, and spirit, which he likes to describe as being a play on the words spear and it, like you're throwing a spear at it, is used to show different parts of the soul that manifest themselves in different points and times within the acknowledged illusion of space-time. That's what he describes spirit as. And when it comes to soul blueprint, that raises the question, okay, well, is that like the same thing as soul shard and all that? And also, how are souls unique and different? One classic example, don't mean to brag when I say this, but I've heard that my soul is protected. When I was at Tolek's conference in Arizona last year in October, one of the ladies who was at that conference, she advised me, keep doing what you're doing and don't stop doing it. You have a good future at hand. I checked your soul. You're protected. She didn't really elaborate on that, but on one hand, I felt very glad that I heard that, but on the other hand, I felt kind of jealous, and I was like, wow, I wish I could read souls like you can. But it was still a pleasurable thing to hear, because I can only assume it means something good, like my soul is protected, like wondering what that could mean. Well, some people like Cliff High, the Webbot guy, have said that certain individuals like David Icke, and apparently some other people like Corey Good, for example, their souls are also protected. What does that mean? Well, as Cliff High explained, the powers that be would not want to murder David Icke or Corey Good, because they, if they did, then it would cause like a Gandhi effect of sorts. When Gandhi was murdered, all it did was speed up the process of India's independence, because it caused such a great disturbance in the force, if you will, to kill Gandhi, that all the good things he stood for manifested at a greater level with him being murdered. It caused bad karma for the powers that be. Likewise, the same thing would happen if David Icke was murdered. As Cliff I said, I'm sure it would be true with Corey Good or Alex Jones, Jordan Maxwell, and any other member of the Truth Movement. But would the same thing happen if I was murdered? So they wouldn't want to murder me. They may hassle me at the worst, but they would never even go think about murdering me. Maybe that's what she means, and I'm wondering, okay, if that's true, how does that tie in with the phenomenon of soul shards, and in the case you have put it here, soul blueprints? So again, I've babbled long enough. What do you have to say to elaborate on this subject?
The soul blueprint is something that each and every one of us, and if we look at the spider web once again, because that is a great visualization for everybody to connect and entangle with. And as we choose to incarnate in any dimensional realm, in any star system, in any frequency thread, we allow ourselves to say, well, before I get into this planetary frequency or realm frequency, whether it's form or not form, whether it's light, or you could be incarnate as a cetacean, you can incarnate as a fish. It doesn't matter what you incarnate as and what your choice is. But through that dimensional incarnational choice, you create your blueprint, the soul blueprint. The soul blueprint is what you choose to experience through your incarnation, and then with higher counsels involved and the highest, most intelligence that you are, you create a soul plan, a soul blueprint. That kind of is a rough It's an energetic contract, if you will. This energetic contract also is threaded with the other spider webs and the other time themes and the other, if we say time themes, but they're just threads, they're particle threads of frequency that you're threaded with. And this involves the councils and the groups that you're threaded with, the evolutionary agendas that you're working with, the evolutionary councils and all of these hierarchies and the plans of the planets and the oceans and whatever it is that you're entangled with, because everyone is unique and different and why we're all required. And so one comes into this incarnation with a soul blueprint to incarnate in certain soul families. And these soul contracts occur at the highest intelligence of all that we are, with groups and councils of other higher frequencies and dimensional plans, also threaded back to the hierarchies of the heavens for the overall evolutionary plan of any one being or any one planet. Because we're all threaded infinitely, there's many, many groups and beings at a multidimensional level that are assisting us create these soul blueprints. Every person may come with 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 specific soul themes that they're working on, lessons, really core human lessons that they're here to move through and transcend. It could be compassion. It could be forgiveness. These are what's called God rays. These God rays that we're here to learn, expand, integrate, and illuminate back out and share to creation. Continuing the cycle, because remember, energy, consciousness is all about cyclical evolution. What we become aware of, what we integrate and practice, what we allow ourselves to redefine and realign. And then there's that pause and that void just before a new cycle hits. Then a new cycle of growth begins, where you integrate new information, new beliefs, new truths about who you are and what you exist within, and so on and so forth. And so these blueprints come with these certain themes for us to move through and co-create. And each of us, when you look back, if you will, and those that are awakened look back, if you will, and they say, wow, I've always had that kind of theme in my life, where I've always kind of stuck up for the underdog, or I've really been involved with planetary issues, or they'll see themes in their life that they can thread, the soul threads, that will show them the grander potentiation of what their soul themes are, because they're all interrelated somehow, some way. And so one can look back, if you will, in hindsight and say, well, I always knew that about myself. And that will be an excitement that they then thread themselves into a new frequency, into a new dynamic of investigation and self-discovery. And so these soul themes, these soul blueprints change as you change. As you awaken, as you create greater readiness, as you create greater preparedness, energetic awareness, and you're pacing to get excited and to create new initiations within yourself and new dynamics of understanding and wisdoms that you're bringing online from all that you are within, then creates the grander spider web of all that you are, and these soul themes change and shift as you do. Because we've recently come from a very profound human shift, if you will, as a collective, many of us are now opening up to our galactic blueprints, threaded still with our human blueprints because we're human, but because we're entering into our galactic cosmic potentiation, the playground, if you will. Many of us are also on councils and groups in which we will be preparing the collective and helping and assisting in any way that we're excited to create greater awareness, whether it's through your, shows like your radio show, or whether it's through petitions signing about, lightship disclosure, whatever it may be. All of these are the threads, if you will, that prepare us for that galactic playground initiation, if you will, that belonging to our greater galactic family, which is what we're all preparing for, and why our seemingly soul blueprints have changed into more of a galactic excitement. Many people are awakening to things they never used to be excited about, and they might have to do with light ships. They might have to do with the dynamics of travel that have nothing to do with fuel, and they start doodling and they start creating all of these beautiful things that they never thought they were excited about. And this is how these soul threads open up into a grander, wider version of all that you are. And that's essentially what the soul blueprint is. It's like you've come here in the highest state to say, well, I'm going to contract with these beings in my family. And you've kind of pre-chosen, if you will, at the higher levels or your higher self level to say, I'm going to create this lesson for you. Can you create this lesson for me? Because we understand at the highest levels that we're all one. Even if some of the family that members or your friends may not be awake on you say on the same ride, but they're all with you anyways, because they're co-creating the experiences that you need to assist you to move into a new frequency of understanding, new frequency of awareness, just like you and I have co-created this discussion today, the higher aspects of all that we are, so that we can continue our own unique dynamic blueprint and thread ourselves in new ways. And so every unfolding is divine orchestration. And this is why we can have greater reverence and sacred honor for everything that unfolds, regardless of whether at the time it might seem as if it's happenstance or doesn't mean anything. But when you're awake and you're a grander awareness, you can look back and say, wow, I know why that happened. I can see the threading there. I can see why I did that. I can see why I went there because it led me here. And when we look back on the grander spider web of all that we are, the blueprint on what your major themes are to work on, whether it's self-love, many of us are moving through all dynamics of self-love and balancing the chakras through our male and female frequencies and what we hold as judgments and beliefs and truths about that, because the divine feminine is, kind of been written out of our history, if you will. And many of us are bringing forward our wisdoms and our informations to rebalance our human paradigm on what we've known to be true about our divine female and our divine male frequencies within each and every one of us. And so these are major themes that we come forward to explore. And really, the soul blueprints are not about knowing any one certain thing. It's about exploring and experiencing, because that's essentially what the soul desires. Mother, Father, God, love is all experiential. That's what consciousness is. It's experiential. It's quantum experience, because everything is illusory anyways, except for love and consciousness. So we desire to experience love in as many ways as we can. We desire to be love in as many ways as we can. We desire to experience all things as if we are Mother, Father, God, because we are. And when we see things in that balance of divine male, divine female, then we can let go of the stuff that kept us in limitation and feeling heavy and doubtful of ourselves, and illness and pains within the body begin to dissipate and disappear, because we've transmuted it with balancing of what we know to be true, which many of us are working on those themes in our blueprints, because we manifest those in our everyday life as challenges or seeming obstacles, so that we can, go within and have that sacred reflection and say, why is it that I believe to be true about what I've just experienced, and why do I feel what I feel? And therefore bringing us to a higher state or an expanded state of awareness. So the soul blueprints are your kind of your roadmap, if you will, your soul roadmap. I like to call it, kind of what the soul desires you to kind of experience. And the higher self is the driver, your higher self. And when you have that connection and that alignment between your divine sacred heart, that Mother, Father, God frequency, the divine in you entangling with the divine in me, and we align that with your divine sacred self, saying, I'm open to whatever synchronicities, I'm open to whatever cues the higher self can guide me and gift me with, so that that roadmap is experienced in its most fullest, most dynamic, profound way. Because you've come here with profound gifts, and that roadmap will allow you to experience and to explore and rediscover who you are in your most expanded state.
Thank you. I guess one more question, and then we'll call it a day. Um, this is a somewhat random question, but hey, it always makes for a conversation to talk about this. I think for just some different schools of thought on this. As someone who's really big on helping people expand consciousness and see new realities, do you support or shun the idea of being a psychonaut? Now, different schools of thought on this. People have asserted that drugs are not bad, like it stereotypically is asserted. Well, some are, like cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, and alcohol. You take them, you're likely to have archons interfere with you in bad ways. But there's other ones, such as cannabis, mushrooms, and amanitas, and maybe even cough medicine. Some people have said they've gotten some spiritual enlightenment from that, even though it's synthetic. That if you take them, they can certainly help you enter higher realms of states of seemingly higher states of consciousness, where you can get new thoughts that'll help you in great ways. But I have heard from some people, like, for example, my paternal grandfather, who died in the year 2000, when a psychic was channeling him, when he was talking about trying to meet me in my dreams, and also how I could meet him in down in this world, how I communicate with him. I said, is there anything I could do to maybe communicate with you? Like, should I go down to the local pharmacy and drink a bottle of cough medicine or something? And my grandfather, the psychic said, my grandfather laughed and said, well, actually, I wouldn't advise that, because when you do that and you're high on that stuff, it's actually harder for entities like me to interact with you. It's easier for us to get down on your level and interact with you if you're in a state of sobriety. And that raises the question, if you're want to enjoy nature and all that, and some people, if they want to go out into nature and interact with all the fairies, gnomes, elves, and other elementals that can be found more easily in nature, some might think maybe if you go there tripping on mushrooms or acid, you'll have an easier time communicating with them. But if you believe what my grandfather on the other side said, you would think, well, maybe if you learn how to get high on sobriety and go into nature, then it's actually going to be easier for the elementals to communicate with you. And also this ties into doing like rituals and meditations during astrologically significant events. Many people that have a schedule for their drugs, so to speak, they want to do their psychoactive and theogenic substances on days of astrologically significant alignments like eclipses and equinoxes and all that. But I remember astrologer Jim Delacoli, in some of his videos advising against that. He actually said that if you are high on a psychoactive substance, it's harder for the positive energies of the astrological alignments to affect you in positive ways. It's more easily for the energies to affect you in positive ways if you're sober. So he suggests suck it up, discipline yourself, and learn how to get high in sobriety if you want to enjoy these things. Now, is there some truth to that? And if there is truth to that, would you actually advise all the psychonauts out there? I strongly suggest you cut back on your drug habits. It may feel good to be high on those things, but you're really, really doing a hindrance to your consciousness expansion if you do them, even though it may seem counterintuitive. That's what you're doing.
That's a great topic because I've been, there's many beliefs and there's many, theories about ayahuasca and, the beliefs that we have about what we need, is really transforming every part of our social dynamic and our social paradigm. And my personal, inspiration is that we already come with the moment that we are breathed into creation, regardless of what realm or how awake one may think they are or moving through. We are already gifted with everything that we are to be blissful, to be eternal, and to be in a constant state of ecstasy. We're already gifted with what we need. And so there's no need to go anywhere else. There are those that create the path and the experience to experience those things, and that's their truth and that's their experience. But it doesn't have to be, because we're all moving through awareness and understanding that we come with the perfection of tools of the divine within us, and we have everything that we need to be our Christed self, our God self. And so that's just what I know to be true about the divine. And, it's the pure, most ecstatic state of self-love and self-acceptance and self-honor. So it's nothing else is really required.
Thank you. So you're suggesting we all have the ability to get high on sobriety. If we all learn how to do that, we can ditch the drugs and won't have to worry about taking them. Well, hopefully that someday that will be the case, and I'm sure the ETs out there would actually shun the idea of using those substances recreationally. I mean, better in theogenically than recreationally, but even in theogenically, there's ways to learn how to get high on sobriety so you don't have to do that. But that's easier said than done for some people. So I just thought I'd throw that out.
I think something that's come up for me recently is that what we hold underneath what we do, whether it's food, the addiction to food or the addiction to alcohol, the addiction to whatever it is that we're addicted to, is what we think is our needs and our desires, and are they being met? So if you go to the root of why we do what we do, and it's always about one or two things. It's about the understanding and our link to love, our understanding and our link to fear. I mean, all things are love, but when we don't have when we don't have that self-love, when we don't have that self-honor and sacredness and appreciation and acceptance, then we create fears. And so it always stems back to those dynamics. Is it love or is it lack of? And so that goes back to, well, I feel I need to get, out of myself to really truly get enlightened. And any enlightenment always occurs from within, and it's always the path of love. So nothing else is really required. So it's always going to the root of of all that we are.
Right. Well, that was a lovely way to conclude this interview. It was a great interview, and I'm glad that inauspicious astrological horoscope that I read about maybe having problems with communication did not seem to manifest in any way during this interview, and I hopefully that will not happen throughout the rest of the day. Are you an Aries, by the way?
I'm Taurus.
Okay, so that wouldn't affect you. So, well, make of that whatever you will.
So, Andrew, you're an incredible interviewer, and you bring the reality right to the forefront of the conversation. So I appreciate that, and we've done, wonderful co-creations today. So I appreciate your your forthright, ability to, get to the truth and get to the core of things. So you're a great interviewer.
Yeah, and you're you're a great person to interview, so keep up the good work. All right, without further ado, namaste. Enjoy the rest of your Memorial Day. Memorial Day wait may be an illusion in regards to what the soldiers are fighting for, but hey, that's beside the point. Let's have a lot of honor and respect for them for what they've done, even though they've been suckered into believing a lie. They still do good things for us, and well, so do you, and so do a lot of other people that we should all fight for and support. So thank you very much, Joanne. It was a pleasure having you on. I wish you the best of luck. Enjoy the rest of your trek without infinite consciousness. Have a good day.
Namaste.
Namaste. Bye bye.